Come on, pal. I don't want to hear your life story. Paw me.
Hey everyone, this is Eric at Monkey Paw Wargaming. Today we're going to be talking about this. I've gotten several requests and messages from you guys talking about, hey man, that would be awesome if you could just show us like an army feature of what you all have. Well, you're in luck. Today that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at my Iyanden Craftworld Eldar army. And we're going to go sort of over everything that I have built and painted. I have a few more models and things like that, like units that are in various stages of completion, of course. But I will be showing you the army as I've collected it now for nearly like 15 years. So hopefully that you guys can, tune in and, take a look at it. And at the end of the video, I will show you or talk to you about the current list that I'm playing right now in 9th edition based on what I feel or what I've had success with, how to play to missions in 9th edition. So if you want that content and you're enjoying that, then stay tuned to the end of the video and don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and let's get on with it. And we're back. So here is my entire army set up on the table. Now when I say entire army, I'm meaning everything that I have painted up until this point. Now, as any sort of large collector of Games Workshop stuff, you always have what is called a pile of shame, and I am no different. There are several units that are not featured in this shot that are in various stages of completion, painting wise, building wise, or some are just simply not assembled yet. But this is the entire army that I have, that I've collected over many, going on 2 decades now. Actually 3 decades when you factor in some of the older models. Yeah, this is it. This is everything. I haven't added up the points in 9th edition, so I don't know how big the army is in terms of, like, if I were to sit down and write it out or whatever, I'm sure it's at least 10,000 points, maybe. I don't know. Maybe more, maybe as high as 20,000. It used to be in 7th and 8th edition. This army was I had about 20,000 points of stuff painted. With points changes and the way that the detachments work, I'm not really sure where I'm at in terms of overall point size. But that being said, this is a lot, right? So this is everything that I have. I have a lot of Forge Rule units. I have some Hornets, I have the Phoenix Bombers, Nightwing, I have a Titan, I have the old Tempest, which was an armor cast tank. Now it's, I use it, it's essentially a Scorpion. So usually when I played in larger games, it's a Scorpion. I have the Lynx. So I have lots of Forge Rule units. I also have the Wraithseer. This is the culmination of years of collecting and what many hobbyists aspire to. For me, this is only one of my armies. I have other armies that are as big as this. I just, if you guys want, we can cover that in a different video. If you guys are interested in that content and seeing what other armies I have that are this size, comment down below in the comment section. But let's take some closer pans and shots of this, and yeah, we'll just kind of enjoy the look of the army. All right, so we can work from the top left down, and then we'll move over to the right. So here's my Crimson Hunters. Here's my Wraith Lords. I got 4 Wraith Lords and a Wraithseer. And my War Walkers. And my Viper Jet Bikes. Which is an interesting story about these bikes. These bikes literally are, I bought them in '96 when they came out with a box set for these things, a plastic. So these are the original boxes that came out. These are a day 1 release, so that's how old these models are. These are my jet bikes. I have my Autark on a jet bike, which I believe you can no longer take anymore. It's Legends. So in match play, it's no longer allowed, but in friendly games, go right ahead. Storm Guardians. I have another set of Storm Guardians that are still waiting to be painted. I have all my Guardian squads here. These are my Rangers. My Dire Avengers. And so these are all my Wraith Guard units. So I'm in the process of slowly moving them over to 40mm bases. If you notice, my bases, they're all custom. The bases are made by a company called Dragon Forge Studios. They do resin bases. Everything in my army is based on a resin base, or will be shortly based on a resin base. I have the bases, I just have not switched them over yet. You know, this army's old, so when they made the plastic ones, which you can see here with the D-scythes, they made them slightly larger and put them on a 40mm base. And I've only done one unit so far of that, and I still have to rebase these ones onto 40mm, and then these ones are on 40mm. I just had to pop them off the plastic and put them on. This is my Seer Council. I got my Spirit Seers in there. In 6th edition, you actually had Iyanden Arenal, the Spirit Seer. They had at a time, for a brief moment in time, in one of the editions of Warhammer, you had her as a special character. So there she is right there. There's the Phoenix Lords. I got Prince Uriel in there. My Maugan Ra, which I painted that Maugan Ra in 1995 for a friend. Same thing with this Avatar. So these two units right here, the Avatar and Maugan Ra, I have not repainted, and I probably won't repaint them. Little backstory with these, I had a friend and he had an Eldar army, so I ended up painting those. These are part of his army, and I was fortunate enough to purchase this army from him several years ago, and we're talking like 10 years ago, and I never really had the heart to repaint these, even though I repainted some of the other ones. Just, it's always nice to see where you started or where you were and where you end up as far as painting. The other reason why I keep these is for nostalgia purposes. Sadly, a few years ago, my friend passed away, and so I sort of keep these as a sort of a friendly reminder, or just a reminder of good times from long ago. So there's my Lynx, my Wraith Knight. There's my Revenant Titan, my Phoenix Bombers and Nightwing. Warp Hunters, Night Spinners. I got 3 of those. They were good in Apocalypse back in the day, and you take a formation of 3. And then all my Wave Serpents, and then I got my Hornets. And then back to my aspects. So my Swooping Hawks, I just recently added my Banshees. Plastic Banshees are great. You can get a better shot of these on my Instagram. I just recently finished those. Fire Dragons, I have another Fire Dragon unit in the box, still waiting to be built and painted. These are all my Dark Reapers. Love Dark Reapers. And then all my Warp Spiders. And finally with Dire Avengers. Alright. Pretty cool. Okay, here, as promised, here is my 2,000 point Craftworld Iyanden Eldar army that I'm currently using in 9th edition games of Warhammer 40k. Note, one unit of Swooping Hawks is not pictured. That unit is currently on my painting table, so just FYI, I have 2 units of Swooping Hawks in this list, not just one. Okay, with that being said, let's start with the HQ choices. I'm running a battalion. So the first unit is a Farseer on a jet bike with a singing spear. The Warlord trait I give him is Fate's Messenger, which gives him a +1 to his wound and then a 5/6 shrug off wounds save. Definitely makes him a little bit more tanky, a little bit more durable. Keep that psychic stuff going in games as long as possible. My second HQ choice is a Spirit Seer with bare bones. My Third choice is a Warlock on a jet bike. I have a new Warlock on a jet bike on my painting table that's in the process of being painted as well. So my old one that I converted long ago is still being used right now. Okay, so that rounds out my HQs. For my heavy support, I have a Lynx. The only upgrade I have on my Lynx is Spirit Stones. Second heavy support choice is a Falcon Grav Tank with scatter lasers, pulse laser, and shuriken cannons. The third heavy support choice is 5 Dark Reapers. My Dark Reapers have no upgrades. So then let's talk about troops. Troops, I have 3 units of Dire Avengers. 2 of the 3 units have the Shimmer Shield and the Power Weapon Polearm, and 1 does not. So the great thing about the Shimmer Shield is it gives those units a little bit more durability. It gives those units a 5-up invuln save, so that's good to have. Our objective security units are very weak. They're not very durable, so that gives them just a little bit more durability against things. To round that out, I have 4 dedicated transports. 2 Wave Serpents have star cannons and shuriken catapults. The other 2 have scatter lasers and shuriken cannons. For my elites, I have a unit of Wraith Guard with just D cannons. Eventually I'd like to switch those over to Wraith Blades with the axes and shields. I just have not acquired the models, but once I do acquire those and paint them, I'll probably massage the points in certain areas to get to where I need to be to allow those to feel. I think I need to basically find 20 points. Shouldn't be too difficult. So all the vehicles have Spirit Stone upgrades, very handy. Spirit Stones are pretty much an auto take in any Craftworld Eldar army you play now. And then finally, for fast attack, I have my Swooping Hawks. I have 2 units of Swooping Hawks. Sometimes, if depending on who my opponent is, I'll spend the upgrade from Psychic Awakening to give the Shrine upgrade so they can take an additional Exarch power. So usually the one that I take is the one that makes their bomb barrage do mortal wounds on 5s and 6s. Mortal wounds is extremely difficult to get with Eldar, so you can only find mortal wound dealing units, and there's very few that deal actual mortal wounds. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah, so that's pretty much my army. So, strategically how this army plays is it jumps out on objectives very quickly. It forces you to deal with my tanks. Have a lot of high toughness tanks in there, a lot of wounds. And then my Swooping Hawks are meant to be secondary grabbers, so very easy to get engage on all fronts and deploy scramblers. Those are pretty much, I consistently use those 2 secondary objectives in almost every game I play because they're not as reliant on what the opponent does. It's one of those things where it's like, if you can control how you score your secondaries, you're in a better position to win the game. So that's why I have them. That and the fact that, the ability to deal mortal wounds is always helpful. Rarely comes up where it makes a difference, but it's nice to have the additional flexibility. So let's talk about psychic powers now. So as I was talking earlier about, you want to be able to include mortal wound dealing units in your army. With the current meta, with Cetons running around, with Mortarion running around, all these high toughness, high strength, crazy save units. The Eldar, as it is right now, they don't have the volume of firepower to really lay into these units over an extended course of the game. They have quality firepower, but a lot of that quality firepower is on vehicles, and it's very easy to shut Eldar vehicles down now because of the changes to the fly keyword. Whereas you used to be able to just leave combat in 8th edition and then just blast away. Now you really can't do that. So it's very easy for units, especially Blood Angels and other types of fast-moving armies that are as fast as you, to get in there and shut a lot of your shooting down. So we don't really have a lot of quality firepower and quantities to really put a dent in these types of units. You really have to pick and choose. And so what I did was I chose units that deal flat 3 damage, right? There's a lot of Gravis armies out there now. Eradicators are really good. Aggressors are really good. Pretty much a lot of Primaris units really give Eldar fits. basically because they can just absorb wounds, right? And then they heal it away with the apothecary. Strategically, what I've been finding is if I can put enough flat 3 damage shots downrange, that really starts to chip away at those units very quickly. So that's what I decided to do. Dark Reapers are great for that. The Lynx, the Lynx is great. It's a workhorse. That Pulsar, I mean, mine is modeled with a Sonic Lance, but they got rid of that option with the new Forge Ruled books, the updates. So it counts as. But the Pulse Laser on there, the Pulsar is so good. So good. Strength 9, 6 shots, flat 3 damage, right? Minus 3 AP. Very, very good at just eliminating those Space Marine units, putting wounds on high toughness targets, right? Because Citan and all those things are like toughness 8. The ability to wound them on 3s is critical. Yeah, like basically putting flat 3 damage on things allows you to chew through wounds very quickly. Things like Citan and Mortarion, they have limiters as far as how many wounds they can take in any given phase. So the other thing that I take and I've been coming up with is using Executioner combined with Smite on my Farseer. Now, I used to be a proponent of Guide and Doom, right? Those are the 2 best powers that Eldar had in 8th edition. Like, you know, you really got a lot of mileage out of those. Not so much now anymore. I've been finding that Doom is probably better than Guide. It's just the ability to reroll wounds for me is better than rerolling my hits. I sort of took Guide out and added Executioner in, because Executioner, if you read it, if you combine it with Smite, you can the Farseer can basically do 3d3 mortal wounds in a psychic phase if he successfully casts both powers. That is really powerful. I mean, we're talking, he has the ability to single-handedly guarantee an elimination of smaller size squads all on his own. Bypass toughness, bypass armor, bypass invuln saves, just take your wounds and like it. What's great about him is he's able to just bypass the toughness of those bigger units and just consistently just chip away and deal wounds to those units. So I have mortal wound dealers in different phases of the game, which allows me to bypass those high toughness targets in a single turn, right? So like psychic phase, I can deal mortal wounds to it, right? You reach your cap limit, you move on. Then you shoot at it, right? And then depending, like when I bring my swooping hawks down, and if I want to sacrifice them how close they are, I can bomb it for mortal wounds, right? So, and that's done at the end of the movement phase. So you got different phases where you're triggering mortal wounds on these larger models, which whittles them down much, much faster. So that's sort of the strategy of the army. Its win rate is pretty decent. Eldar still are challenged with the 9th edition rules. They're, again, like I said before, their objective secure units are not as durable, and you basically have to hide them until you really need them. And that's also why I bring 5 transports to the list. So as I lose transports, I always have enough capacity to hop in another one. With the minimum size squads, I can get 2 squads essentially into each Wave Serpent, which is really good. And then I always have the Falcon as backup, or an additional transport that I can hop into if I need to that's nearby. So if my Wave Serpents have moved on but I need somewhere to jump into, you sort of have flexibility of positioning, of always having a transport around close by, that if you need to get into one, you can get into one. So yeah, so that's pretty much the army that I'm rolling with. So if you like this content and you like what you see and like what you heard, leave me some comments down below. We can start a discussion about tactics and tricks, playability with Eldar. If you also want to see, I have several other armies that are large, and if you want me to do an army feature on those, once again, comment down below, tell me what you think, and we'll talk to you soon.